everyone. Welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for May 2025. I'm Dale Franks. We have much to discuss and little time to do it. So let us begin. If I can figure out how to share my screen. As I said, welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar. In this episode, we are going to talk about the series of 6.1.300 patches that we've released over the last month. Then we're going to take a look at what's upcoming in terms of product enhancements in 6.1.400, which should be, hopefully, our next release, and some bug fixes that will be featured in that version as well. So let's start with the 6.1.30x patches. We've released a couple of additional patches. 6.1.302, which I believe we talked about last month, but which were quickly followed up each week by .303 and .304. All of these were released to address issues from specific customers. They're all formal releases, so our current release is 6.1.304. So that's our last public release. So we want to just quickly go through some of the release notes and what were covered. You may find that many of these things don't apply to you because a lot of these fixes that we made were largely for edge cases. Now, that is not true for .302. That was a major bug, which we talked about last month, which was the date time picker conversions from UTC to local time zones. Those were off significantly. So that was a big fix. Everything else since then are really specific issues. And there's one that is so specific that it's highly unusual that we did it. We'll talk about that in a second. So there were several CSS issues that had to be fixed. One is the display of list elements on forms, like ordered lists, numbered lists, or bulleted lists. The color of the text was different, so it was a simple CSS issue. Another weird one was if you're using web services and you made a web services call and the user agent header was blank or null on the SOAP call that you made to the web service, then authentication would fail, which is really kind of highly particular because usually the user agent header is not blank or null, but apparently sometimes it is. And in those cases, the web service call, well, I guess the web service call would fail if you were requiring authentication because the authentication would fail, and thus the web service call would not get made. So we fixed that. A weird little thing, and this was really just a display issue. If you have the f-include bootstrap custom variable set to true, which turns on the responsive layout controls in the online form designer and also changes the CSS that gets applied to forms, both in the design view and at runtime. It also affects some of the controls in the UI. So there's a little bleed over from Bootstrap that changes some of the look and feel of particular elements on particular pages in the UI. So we went ahead and took a look at resolving those issues. You may have noticed that if you were in the set form data tab of a form definition and you looked at the dropdown for the events, the dropdown was the text that appeared in it was Bootstrap text, which assumes a much larger vertical size for the dropdown, but the dropdown was the normal vertical size. So the text, you only saw like the top half of the text where it says select event. So anyway, that was a display issue that got fixed. Also timeline definitions. Some of the icons that are supposed to appear with the activities would not get displayed. So we fixed that. Another weird issue where for some process timeline activities, if you did not have a due date specified, uh, it would time out. And you had to have a particular configuration and be doing a particular thing. And usually what happens is it just takes your duration and it calculates the due date based on the duration. So if you don't provide a due date, we know what the duration of the activity is and it gets provided anyway. But in this particular configuration, that wasn't happening. So the activity not having a due date would just immediately time out. For OAuth data sources, another display issue, the refresh token property was not showing up. Now, this last one is not a process director issue. We fixed it because we had a customer that was using it a lot, but I want to actually look at a process director form in the online form designer. And we don't really even care about the form so much as we care about the controls. So up here at the top, there is a control. It is called the link control. This is not a process director control. This is a control that is built into the CK editor by default. The CK editor is just a third-party HTML editor that we use for the online form designer and for form fields where you want to allow people to use rich text formatting, basically HTML formatting in a text box. You can use it there as well. This is not our control. Our control is in other controls. It is called the hot link control. That is the BP Logix control, which, by the way, is in itself a little problematic. We found something we're going to fix on that too. We'll talk about that in a sec. But there was a problem with this control where if you clicked it once, it would show you the right thing. And then if you went back and clicked it again after the form refreshed, it would show localhost as the URL, not whatever the URL is configured. So it was a weird little wonky thing. Again, this is not our control. We didn't build it, so we're not entirely sure why it responded that way. But in this particular case, we made a fix to this control because we had a customer that had used it in a lot of places. Do not use this control. That is our recommendation. We have a control for you to use. It is called the hot link control. That's the control that we would prefer that you use on a process director form to have hot links that can evaluate system variables and like email URL for an email template or what have you. So we did fix this control. We did fix that bad behavior. You should just be aware that all of the process director controls are on the bottom row of this toolbar. Everything above this row is a CK editor control, not a control that we built. And any fix that we have to do to one of these controls would be a special case. This was a special case and we did it. Of course, also these top 5 controls here, they're not process director specific controls, but we have edited them so that it obviously saves your form template with the form definition. In any event, those were the patches that we released, all of which, the latest one was on 30 April 2025. We don't expect to release any more patches until .400. So this is what it is for now. And it looks like I have the wrong size set on either my screen or on my sharing thing, but well, we'll just have to live with it as is and roll on. So some enhancements that are upcoming in Process Director. I'll show you these, any of these that I can. In fact, before I even get into this, I mentioned something about the hot link control. I don't have a JIRA ticket for it because we haven't fixed it yet, but I can tell you that we are going to fix it. Let me drop a hot link control onto this form real quick, and we will go to the field properties, and there is an event field for the hot link control. I don't know why there's an event field for the hot link control. The hot link control does not produce a trappable event. It also has synchronized field within process. Not sure why that's there or why encrypt is there. So these properties for the hot link control are not really relevant. We did have a tech support ticket saying, hey, you know, I made the hot link control an event field and it's not trapping the event. And that is correct. It is not trapping the event because the event in a hot link control is purely a client event. It does not prompt a post back. It navigates your browser to a new URL. So the hot link control is going to be edited so that we remove all of these events or these field properties that simply don't apply to the hot link control. And ultimately, that is going to be changed in the product. That's one we're working on, but that's one that I know is coming. So we'll go ahead and talk about it now. So there's a new custom variable, fform open in new tab. As you know, whenever you open a new form instance in Process Director, or if I just hit, well, let's make it go faster here. Let's just run a form from here. And as you can see, this form is now opened in a brand new window. And this has been the way it's worked for a long, long time. And people have disliked the fact that it works this way, and we understand that dislike. So there's a new custom variable, fOpenFormNewTab, which will, as the name implies, open forms in a new browser tab in your browser rather than opening it as it has been in the past by default in a new window. It's now possible for us to make this change because of so many of the architectural changes that we've made in the background of the product. So we can now just open forms in new tabs. There are some advantages to doing that. There'll certainly be some advantages for me in doing it because of the way that I do screenshots and stuff for training and documentation. Being able to open it in a new tab is cool. Also, as you just saw on this machine, on documentation server, when it opens a new form, the form is huge and it takes up my entire 32-inch monitor, which makes it kind of hard to see. So being able to just open things in new tabs are going to make my life a little better and hopefully will make your life a little better as well. On the knowledge view definition, on the right side of the knowledge view definition, we have added a new comparator that you can use to evaluate. It is the empty string option. This is kind of a wonky one, and it is sort of difficult to explain, but let's open up a knowledge view and just take a look at it. We'll go to the filter tab. We'll add a condition real quick. And over here on the right side, we have the ability to set it up. And I don't think we can do it on name. I think we probably have to do it on form field. And will it still work? No, it's going to make me... I thought I had saved this yesterday. Apparently, I did not save it. So that's how I had it configured yesterday. And there we go. That's what we wanted to see, is this new option right here, this empty string item. Normally, if I was to have a filter that looked like this, and my field was blank, this filter would work. But it doesn't always work because there is a difference between a null value in a field and an empty string. And we had a customer that was setting things specifically to an empty string. You would think that an empty string would be null, but it's not. Null means nothing. The empty string is actually a string. It just doesn't have any text in it. It's very confusing, and I'm not sure why you would do it that way, but it was done that way. And so now we have added empty string as one of the options that you can select on the right-hand side of a knowledge view filter. We made some improvements to the process of rotating out encryption keys. Several of you have HTTPS certificates and things like that. And sometimes you also need to install from an old system to a new system. You get a new server. You want to transfer over to a new server. If you're on premise, you would do that. We wouldn't do that, but it's on a new server, which means we're going to have to rotate those encryption keys out, which means we're going to have to decrypt all of the information in the old database that we've encrypted previously, and we're going to have to apply a new encryption key to it and re-encrypt it. We've improved that process. We've made it a little bit easier for those of you who are on-premise customers and need more details. Contact us. We'll help you with that. But we have made the key rotation much simpler. We have added new properties for the installation settings properties page to enable you to upload a Office 365, or I'm sorry, that's not what we're calling it anymore, is it? It's a Microsoft 365. And if you have CDA, collaborative document authoring, and you're trying to do it through your Microsoft 365 setup, there are all these properties that we added, and we've had to add some new ones. We've had to add the ability to upload and use a Microsoft 365 certificate to be able to properly encrypt and decrypt document attachments that you're going to upload into your process and then store in your Microsoft 365 system so that people can then use Microsoft 365 to perform the collaborative document markup. And for some systems, people just have certificates that they want to use to do the encryption. So we can now upload that to the system. We also added something that I talked about previously, but I don't think I was able to show you, but now can. For multi-factor authentication, we have now added a 30-day pause on that. So when someone uses MFA to log in, you can set this property to true, and they will be able to use the system for the next 30 days without the system prompting them every time they log in for their multi-factor authentication, which they have to pull out of Authy or whatever. So we now have a 30-day trust that we have enabled for multi-factor authentication. Another change we've made, we now force re-authentication on any user who is A, logged in, and B, looking at something that they are covered under, the current permissions. If you go in as an administrator and you change those permissions, the system will now take that user and automatically force them to re-authenticate whenever you apply your permissions changes. Usually, whenever you log into the system, it applies all of your permissions. But if you are already logged in and you are working in a particular form, and someone came in and changed the permissions on that form and stripped you of permission to look at it, that wouldn't update for you until the next time you logged in. And again, it's pretty much an edge case, I think. But customers saw that and said, we would prefer, if we're going to make a change, that anybody who is logged in and using that object, if we decide we're going to change the permission, we want them kicked out immediately, and we want to force them to re-authenticate. So now they have to re-authenticate. We've imposed that. Obviously, if you're not logged in, you'll never see this. It'll never happen to you. Next time you log in, the proper permissions will just be applied to you. The Advanced Show Alert CT has been changed a little bit. It's a little bit easier to use now. Let's go back to my documentation form and go to the Custom Task Event Mapping tab, and let us add. I made all these changes yesterday, and I clearly did not save this form after I made them. So here's the Advanced Show Alert custom task, which we will add, and we'll click our configuration button and open our huge configuration form. What I want to show you is the big change right here in this custom alert icon primary, which now exists, by the way, and custom alert icon secondary. So two things. A, I can have both a primary and a secondary alert icon, and I can create a custom icon. Now up here, you have the standard icons, the info, success, warning, error, but you can also set your own icons for both a primary and a secondary icon. And you can use the icon chooser to pick that icon. Previously, you had to know what the icon number was, right? So if I wanted the little overhead of the jet airplane here, I guess that would be icon number 1039. And I needed to know what that icon number was. I needed to type it into a box manually. We don't have to do that anymore. We can now just pick our icon color. And in addition, I can set the size in pixels for the icon. Icons are always square, so the height and width are always the same. So all you need to do is just specify the size in pixels in that text box, and your icons will show in whatever size you have selected, or your icon, depending on whether you use one or both of these. So you now have the ability to do a little extra customization inside the advanced show alert custom task dialog box in Process Director. Some security improvements for PDF file uploads and cross-site scripting protection. Not going to get into details, as I never do, on what specifically we did, but we have strengthened cross-site scripting protection, and also the data type checking for PDF files that get uploaded as attachments. Workflows are gone. If you go to the Create New menu, which I guess I would have to go to a folder to see, I did it. See, this is what I did yesterday. I just went ahead and left the form without saving it. But now that we're in a folder, the last item you can select is Stream Action. We no longer go to the W's because you can no longer create workflow definitions after 6.1.400. Workflows have been deprecated for, well, years at this point, and workflows will exit support and exit their life cycle on April 1st, 2026. So we have had them in a deprecated status. Well, I remember when I first got hired here in 2014 and I first started working for BP Logix, my boss at the time gave me the directive, do not use workflows for anything. Our primary modeling tool is the process timeline. We're keeping workflows in for legacy purposes, and we have kept them in for legacy purposes for 11 years. And on year 12, they will leave the product. But this does not affect existing workflows. So your existing workflows will continue to work. In fact, we're not even going to strip workflows out of the product next year. They're still going to be there. We're just not going to offer any more support for any of the existing workflows. So ultimately, you are going to have to convert any workflows that you have to process timelines. But we are not going to go and start rooting around and just ripping out the workflow functionality. What we are going to do, however, is prevent you from creating any new workflow definitions. Going in and stripping out workflows would be a huge job, a job that I don't think anyone has the interest in undertaking. But after next year, we will simply not be offering any more support for workflows. So if you want to keep your workflows running, after that point, that's going to be solely up to you. And to sort of help us out with that, we have altered the Start New menu so that you can't create new ones in the system. Some enhancements, some updated look and feel for the UI buttons. You may have seen that. We're actually involved in a larger product to replace all of the UI buttons. There's a couple of things that we want to do. We want to get rid of the image-based icons on the buttons, and we want to provide an updated look and feel for those buttons. And I actually have a Jira ticket in which I've sort of gone through the product, and we'll take a look. I'll show you how I perceive, and this is just how I perceive. It may not be the way that the entire product team perceives what we need to do, but um, oh, where is it here? Uh, how about reported by me? UI button update. This is the one. So we've made some changes to the buttons, some of them already. Um, these buttons here. So whenever you go to like the choose system variable dial, not the choose system variable dialog box, the condition builder. So that's not what I wanted to do. That's the wrong thing. So let's go up here to options and I want to invoke the condition builder. So right here. So these buttons here, the OK and the update and cancel, they're gray now. Not sure I'm a big fan of the gray. But we have these buttons here. Here's one that still has an image-based icon. It's also square. The build button is kind of hard to see here until you flip over it. So that's a bad thing. And again, we're looking at the most recent stable running development version. So this is way ahead. This is .400 something. It's some build of .400. So this is all in development, what I'm showing you now. But what we're trying to get to is, at the end of the day, something that looks like that. So we're using the Google Material UI. So we're going to make these buttons more distinct. They're all going to be the same. We're going to get rid of all of those image-based icons and replace them with the same text-based icons that you use in the icon builder. And that's ultimately what the buttons are going to look like. Don't take these colors to the bank, but basically we're going to get everything set up so that we end up looking like the buttons look in the content list. So if we go into the content list and I click here and we can see all these buttons here, this is kind of the look that we're shooting for. So we've already done parts of it, but we are continuing to work on those buttons on an ongoing basis. We're also making changes to the button control. So how am I doing? 327. I am way behind time here. But let's go back and look at our documentation form because I have a button control on that form, and this is the button control right here. So we have added some new properties to the button properties tab. First of all, there is now a style property, which will enable you to put any CSS style directive that you want to put in there to apply to a button. Second, there is a corner radius that will allow you to round off the corners here. Now, in this particular case, I have it set to 8px, but you can also set it to a rem space. So I could set this to, let's say, 0.3 rem, and I could run the form. And so this slight rounding here, I think, is going to be much more widely rounded as soon as the form saves and runs. So there we go. There's my button. It's actually a little less rounded. I thought it would be more rounded, but it's actually a little less rounded by setting it to rem space. And you can also set it, if you really want something weird, you can set it to a CSS percentage. So you can actually set it to 25%, and we can save that. And once it saves, we'll go ahead and reload this form instance so we can refresh it now. And now you can see it's got this weird little shape, which is what setting it in percentage does. So you have options for changing your button. But wait, there's more, because we also have an option. Now, is down here at the very bottom, show box shadow. So if we have show box shadow set, uh, then right now we see the button is a flat button, and we're sort of moving to the Google Material Design flat UI. But if you don't like the flat UI, you don't have to have it. You can check that 3D thing, and you can actually see on the button now, it's sort of got this 3D look to it, which is more like the traditional old style button, simply by clicking show box shadow. So the button control is going to be a lot more customizable for you, other than just being able to see different colors. All right, so bug fixes. Let's go through those real quick because it's 10:30. The list item display color, which I think I mentioned earlier, that has been fixed. The breadcrumbs inside the content list, so that whenever you're looking in a folder in the content list, up at the very top of the right hand pane of the screen, if I can get us there, you see this up at the top. And these are all breadcrumbs. So we had and these are all supposed to be links, by the way. And the problem was on some occasions, they were not links, and we could not click up on the breadcrumbs to wherever we wanted to click back up to in the content list. So I just clicked up at the very root level of the documentation partition, which I do need to change the name of, but that's just something I need to keep in mind. But we fixed those. Some of those were not working. On the references tab of a form definition, now I don't think I have one here for this documentation form. I don't think the references tab is going to be helpful other than to show you what the columns are. But I don't have any references, so it doesn't matter. But one of the columns is group name, which is great to be able to see the group name of all of the referenced objects, if indeed you have any, except that you couldn't because it wasn't displaying any of those group name properties on the references tab. Now it does. A weird deal where stream actions would start and then would stop and pause until you manually open them up and prompted them. We fixed that. The web service calls we already talked about. The data list control. Last month, we talked about the data list control and your ability to specify columns to display. And, well, you would specify the columns, and then at some point, the data list would just reset them and display all of the columns. So we tracked that down, figured out what that was. And the type ahead drop-down controls. They were ignoring the max results property. So you type in, Smith, and you had a max result set of 5, and it would still return, all 10 Smiths in the system. So it simply wasn't respecting the max results property, and we have fixed that so that it will. There is a question. I would rather see enhancements be made for us BP developers to make our productivity better. For example, drag and drop of list items to reorder. Okay, I'm not sure who this is. I would rather see enhancements be made for us BP developers to make our productivity better. For example, drag and drop list of items to reorder. Okay, I understand that. We are, in fact, doing that in the product for, there it is, right there. So, for example, in the form definition on the form controls tab, we can now reorder dragging and dropping those controls. On the columns tab of, where's my Anology? On the columns tabs of Anology, we've now added drag and drop so that you can drag and drop columns there in the knowledge view. We are working on, I believe, although I don't know if it's in here because I haven't looked to actually see, on set form data, whether we've put the drag and, well, I don't have any set form data events, do I? So let's just have an event and let's add an action. So nope, not yet, at least not on this version that I have, but we are adding those drag and drops like that. But look, if there is some productivity thing that you would like to see, we'd be happy to implement it. Tell us what it is. Submit an enhancement request. You could either submit it via tech support, which I think would be our preferred method of how you submit it. But if you wanted just to open up the documentation and fill out the documentation feedback form on any random page and say, hey, I'd like you to change this so that it works that way. If you have an enhancement, let us know. We'll do it. But we need to know the specifics of what it is that you would like. I don't know that we're going to be able to just go ahead and guess our way into what productivity improvements you would like to see. So please help us out and send us the productivity improvements that you would like to see, and we'll take a look at them. Other little issues: inconsistent click area for UI buttons, not all UI buttons. And it was like it would click if you clicked like literally on the text, but not just off of the text. It was weird. Fixed it. CSS display issues with the edit user page of user admin. So if you're looking at a user page in the system, so if we go back over here to user admin, and we were to open up just a user, so like we'll open up Barb right now, and everything looks fine now because, well, we fixed the thing where it didn't look fine. But we're having to add a whole bunch of new properties here as we add things like multi-factor authentication and some other things, and we have to change the modification here because LastPass wants to replace all of the information in all of these boxes because it wants to be so helpful. And well, the display here got a little bit wonky and things were not showing up in the order in which they should. So we fixed that display issue. And that's just part of, we've been adding properties to that page at a fairly decent clip over the last 6 months. So we had to sort of fix the way that it looks. If you don't have the mobile app component, you don't care, but there was a deal where if you had a form in the mobile app component, it would bring in the drop-down fields, but it would only bring in the values. It wouldn't bring in the display text. So it wouldn't display properly in Process Director because it would only show values. Collaborative document markup. Another weird thing, if you had a reference to an endnote and then you deleted that endnote, it would corrupt the entire PDF document. But again, that's for CDM, which is a separately licensed component that most people don't have. On-premise installations, set form data CT. It would not work as expected when you were running Process Director as a virtual application / directory in IIS. And it only affects on-premise users and only those on-premise users that were running it as a virtual app. So we managed to address that. And that is all that we have managed to address over the last 30 days or so. And with that, we are done with this particular episode of the Feature Spotlight webinar. I look forward to talking to all of you on Thursday for the training webinar, at least for those of you who attend. And for the rest of you, I'll look forward to speaking with you again next month. Have a great month. So long.